Hey guys, welcome back to SLT Learning, and this is Ankit Prajapati, and today we're gonna cover another question on API testing. So I know you are going through with these channels, like in these particular channels we have put all the internet related playlists like Selenium. We will see the test ng, then Git related questions, then Playwright. We have completed almost 100 questions on Playwright. So just go through that playlist if you are paying for any QA automation interviews. Okay guys. So let's understand what we're gonna cover today and how you can answer the questions that we're gonna discuss in this particular call. So let's go and see. So how do you test rate limiting and throttling in API testing? Okay. So what is rate limiting? As the name suggests, right? You limiting something, someone to use your API. Okay. So when your consumer, when your client is asking to subscribe to your API, when you provide them a API key, you set up some boundaries. Okay, you set up some limitation for them. This is what you should use, this is what you should not use, something like that. Okay, so for that particular things we're gonna discuss how you should answer this question. Okay, so that could be the positive scenario, negative scenario to answer these particular questions, but let's understand and let's see how the syntax will be over here. So testing a rate limiting and throttling in API is about verifying the API correctly enforce its limit or number of requests that an individual client can make in a given time of period, and that is behave as expected and when limit are exceed. So let's suppose if one of my client is subscribing to my API and I give him, okay, in 1 hour you can only make the 1000 call. Okay, you can only hit this API 1000 time in 1 hour, 16 minutes. Okay, so suppose if he tried to go beyond the the 1000 call, what exactly will happen, what error message he will get on his side. Okay, so those kind of the testing we need to make before doing the production release. Okay, so how you do the rate limiting? So sometimes they will ask you this question like this way as well. Okay, what is API rate limiting, how you validate these things? Okay, I remember one of my candidate in API testing, I will not sure about the companies, it may be the TCS or Wipro, but they have asked this question to him, and that's why this question has come in our playlist. Okay, how do you test rate limiting and throttling? So this is what, let's we understand the API rate limit policy. This is depend on organization. Okay, this is depend on the companies that they are giving the API, so it's totally not exactly the same that I have put it over here, but you can put in your example in your interviews. Okay, so before testing this kind of functionality, you need to understand this functionality very well. If you understand the rate limit policy, then and then you can do the testing, then and then you can create the scenarios and all those things. Okay, without understanding any requirement you cannot test it. So for QA it is very useful to understand the requirement first. Okay, so to understand the API rate limit policy, let's assume few of the parameters. So the first things would be allowed request per time window, means 100 requests per minute. This is one of the parameters. So allowed request per time window. Then response code, what exactly the response code they will receive once the limit is exceeded. So there is a standard response code for 29 for too many requests. So this is one of the HTTP response code for 29 that will normally get on a response when too many requests will be getting from the API. Okay, then reset behavior. So let's suppose when you reach to your limit, okay, how you can reset the limit and ask your customer to try. Let's, if you remember, right, in our phone, if you try the password like 5 times wrong password, then they will give you, okay, you have reached your limit, you cannot try to attempt more than 5 times, so you are blocked for 30 seconds. So that is called the reset behavior. Okay, so once you reach to your limit, how many minutes or how many seconds you need to wait before performing the same action again. Okay, then any rate limit headers. So these are the couple of rate limit headers that you will normally find in API, like X hyphen rate limit, then X rate limit remaining, and Retry-After. So this is X rate limit, total limit of your API responsibility display, remaining one over here, how much has been remaining, and reset. So this is the reset, after this much of time it will get automatically reset. Okay, this is in a microsecond. So this is how your API headers will be help you to do the validation to understand the API rate policy. Okay, X rate limit, limit, remaining and reset. Limit, remaining and reset. These three parameters you need to remember, and these are the headers, the HTTP headers for your APIs, guys. Okay, so just make sure you understand this kind of terminology to answer this question. Okay, rate limiting one. Now let's understand the testing approach. So there could be the positive scenario, that could be the negative scenario, that could be the throttling scenario. So let's understand first positive scenario. Under the limit, positive, that means the user is not breaking the limit, they are under the limit. So what will happen? So send the request within allowed limit and ensure all the requests are getting 200 or expected success code. So suppose in 1 minute I allowed for 100 requests, so those all 100 requests should be received with the successful rate. Okay, that should be the positive I will just say the response code on that particular request for 100 requests, because they are within a limit. So within a limit it should not be, I will just say there should not be any error. Okay, they should be successfully accessed 100 times within a limit that we have given. And verify this one, X rate remaining parameter. Over here you see this remaining parameter. So whenever they hit the limit, like let's suppose they hit the 10 request, then this remaining parameter will decrease to 19. Okay, so it will total is 100, but now it will become 19. Another 10, then it will become 18. Another 10, then it will become 17. So like this way also you need to validate the X rate limit remaining is decreasing correctly or not based on the request that you have sent on allowed limit. Okay, so these three things you should validate on positive side. Okay, now on a negative scenario, what you will do? So negative scenario, that means you are breaking the system, you are going beyond the limit, you are intentionally try to exceed the limit of your API request. So what will happen? So in a request code, in a response code, it will give you 429 too many requests. Then in a response body, somewhere it contain the error message like rate limit exceed. So this kind of message should be having your response body. Okay, so response body should contain error message like this way, and retry after header tell you how many seconds you need to wait. So this is rate limit reset. So you should retry after the headers values will tell you how many seconds you need to wait, because your rate limit has been exceeded. So you need to wait for certain seconds or certain minutes, then you can try to restart. Okay, and then wait for certain required time, and then try to send a request again and make sure the limit reset, and again it start giving you the positive response. Okay, so this is the negative scenario in lump sum, you understand. Okay, first try to put too many requests within, like let's suppose in 1 minute we allow 100 requests, then try like 200 requests in 1 minute and see the first 100 what should be have a positive response code like 200 or something successful response code, and another 100 will be have 429 like too many requests or failure message and all those things. And based on that, just wait for certain amount of time that has been displayed in the headers, and then try to again put that particular same, I will just say the same request, and see if they will reset the request, reset the your performing action, and then it allows you to again do the API call or not. Okay, then throttling scenario, so it's gradually slow down. So sometimes what happen in couple of companies, right, it will not directly give you the error message, or it will not directly stop you from using that API if you exceed the API. Rather than that, what they will do, they will slow down the API response. Okay, so in that particular case, what you need to do, if they will slow down the API request response, then just capture the response time of API and understand, okay, in before it was giving the response in 2 seconds, but now it is taking a 6 to 7 seconds. Okay, so those kind of things like performance degrades is also part of the policy of many organizations, and there you can understand, okay, we are near to reach our API limit, and that's why API becomes slow. Rather than stopping you straight away by throwing the 429 error, it will slow down your API response. So that is called the throttling scenario. Okay, so first understand the API, then understand the testing approach, positive scenario, negative scenario, and throttling scenario. If you understand these three things, it's more than enough to answer the questions in an interview. Okay, now let's go further and see the example of implementation. As we promised, right, we always come up with the syntax. So these are the way. In a test tab in a Postman, what you can see, pm.test rate limit header present or not. So pm.response.to have header, so these both header are present or not. If they are present, that means this API is under the rate limit policy. If they are not present, that means this API is free to use, they are not under the rate limit policy. Understand this part. Okay, so first things will be understand if the header are present or not, so limit and remaining, then P429 when exceeded limits, and also see in a response if you get this response.code is equal to 429, and in the error message it should include somewhere kind of this rate limit exceed or rate related message, then it is a error message that you can capture in your postman. So this is two things you should remember as a part of syntax, and it's more than enough for you to answer in an interview wise. Okay, then in a rest assured, how you can do these things. So let's suppose if I put in 110 times this particular call, then you just go ahead and just put the get call and status, then you just print these things request dot I+1 and status, and every time you put the status code. But suppose if it is exceed, then the status code, instead of like suppose in successful it will show you the 200, everything is okay, but after 100 call it will show 429 too many requests. So this is another way you can validate the API response code in a rest assured. So this is one of the syntax. You need to remember these things. It's very simple guys. Okay, you need to just capture the status code, you see, capture the status code and then print the status code, and when you see 429, that means the API limit has been exceeded over here. Okay, you can also do the same thing like the response message, response code and all those things over here. You can store in a string the response body, and then in a body you will try to find out the error message related with the rate limit. But this is the best way to validate the response code via response code for the rate limiting. Okay guys, then the best practice says over here, test both single client and the multiple client scenario if the limit are as per the API key or as per the IP address. So sometimes when we provide the API key to our consumer, right, we ask them, okay, you should only use this API key, or you should only use this particular API through this particular IP addresses. So try to do the testing for both scenario, for the single client and the multiple client. Automate this test for non-production environment to avoid the blocking yourself. Okay, this is the simple one. So if you automate these things in your non-production environment, and you can try to see the limits and throttlings and all those things, it is more than enough for you to do the proper validation of this particular APIs before it's going to the production. Okay, always log rate limit headers for debugging. So rate limit headers, these three headers are always useful for the debugging and for the troubleshooting purpose. Okay, use parallel request to hit the limits quickly during the testing. So you can use the parallel mode, okay, in a test ng. You can use the rest assured with the test ng. You can use the multiple collection in a postman to reach the limit quickly to save your time. Okay, consider the chaos testing to simulate a multiple user external limit. So try to have a multiple machines and multiple setups where you can hit the same API multiple times through the same organization, and try to break the system and see what exactly it is behaving after the rate limit is been exceeded. Okay, so these are the three different things, the best practice you should remember as a type of at the time of the answering this question guys. But the key things will be understand the API rate limit policy. If you use this word rate limit policy, they will know, okay, you know about the things. Then these couple of things, allowed, request, response code, reset behavior, and any rate, then these three headers. Okay, speak about the three headers. If you speak about the three headers, then they will also understand, okay, you have the idea about this particular testing. Okay, positive scenario, negative scenario, and throttling scenario, and this implementation always keep with you. It is more than enough for you to answer this question guys. So thank you for watching, and please share our channel. Please share our channel with your colleagues who are preparing for the automation interviews, and please subscribe to it so we can come up with such more videos for you guys.